Hi, I'm Emily and I'm the Castle Girl. Today I'm at Dunnottar Castle. Dunnottar Castle is a medieval stone tower house castle built in the 1290s by Sir William Keith. It is spectacularly sited, 160 feet high, on a dramatic cliff-top promontory, jutting out into the North Sea, on the northeast coast of Scotland, about 2 miles south of the harbour town of Stonehaven. The castle is guarded on 3 sides of the cliff by water, and the only access to the main gate by foot is along the steep sloping cliff downwards towards sea level, and then back up a high footpath, now with modern steps, to the cliff top that is sea-locked on 3 of its sides. The castle could have been accessed also via a cave on the north side of the rocky sea inlet, which a steep path also led up to the postern gate. This location and obvious defensive qualities made it a rather impenetrable fortification. Legend has it that St Ninian built a chapel on the site in the 5th century after converting the Picts to Christianity. There have been many more attempts to capture this magnificent stronghold throughout its ancient past. Other historical accounts state there has been a fortress on the Rock of Dunnottar, south of Aberdeen, dating back to around 681 AD. Here, the Pictish king Bredi III attacked the fortress and survived a siege by a fleet of warriors from Orkney. In 895, it was at Dunnottar that King Donald II of Alba lost his life here. He was defending the castle against a Viking raid. There have been many more attempts to capture this magnificent stronghold throughout its ancient past. In a fierce attack in 934, the warrior Athelstan of Wessex failed. This was to Constantine II and also an earlier king of Alba. More reliable historical sources state that in the 1100s, during the Middle Ages, Dunnottar was used as a centre of administration for Kincardineshire by King William I of Scotland, also referred to as William the Lion. A parish church was built on the site of the earlier St Ninian's Chapel in 1276 by William Wishart, the Bishop of St Andrews. It was after the defeat of John Balliol in 1296 that the castle fell into the hands of the English king Edward I. Edward placed a large garrison of thousands of soldiers to protect the site. In 1297, during the First Scottish War of Independence, William Wallace and a group of his supporters invaded the stronghold from the cliffs below. Taking the unprepared soldiers by surprise, the Englishmen fled to St Ninians for protection. In reaction to this, Wallace simply blocked the chapel door and only exit and set the chapel alight, burning the entire garrison of men alive. The partially destroyed castle was under English control again by Edward III in the 1330s. In 1336, he sent masons, smiths and carpenters under the protection of 100 archers to re-strengthen Dunnottar to be used as a supply base to equip his campaign against the Scots. A year later, during the Second War for Scottish Independence, Sir Andrew Murray, a supporter of David II of Scotland, led an army of men to recapture and destroy the castle, and this time drove out the English. Later in the 14th century, the site at Dunnottar was granted to William de Moravia by David II and passed through marriage to William Keith, Marshal of Scotland. It was Keith who built the stone tower and core of the castle we can see today, and part of the stone defences around the main entrance. William Keith and his descendants held the castle until the 1700s. It was visited by Mary Queen of Scots after the Battle of Corrickey in 1562 and again in 1564. In 1580, her son, James VI of Scotland and 1st of England, visited Dunnottar en route through Fife and Angus. It was between 1580 and 1650 that the Earls of Marischal converted the ruined medieval structure into an extensive and opulent residence. Once up the steps and through a well-defended entrance, you pass through a dark passage and out to the impressive L-planned 4-storey tower house. Beyond the tower is an array of 16th and 17th century structures, including a palace, chapel and stables. You can see there was once a bowling green also. Dunnottar is historically famous for 2 other incidents. Cromwell's forces were under command of General George Monk. In May 1652, the castle was the only place in Scotland supporting Charles II against Oliver Cromwell's forces. The castle was being used to house the priceless honours of Scotland after the rushed coronation of Charles II at Scone. These honours included the crown jewels. After a siege lasting 8 months, the Roundheads ripped the castle apart in search of the regalia. It is believed that Mrs Granger, the wife of the minister of Kenneth Parish Church, smuggled the treasures under her skirts. And lowered them in a creel down the cliffs to a maid pretending to collect seaweed. The honours were hidden in Kenneth Parish Church until the monarchy was restored in 1660. Dunnottar never recovered from the siege to its full glory and was used instead as a prison in 1685 in the height of the killing times to imprison 167 Covenanters who refused to submit to the new royal prayer book of King James VII. They were known as the Whigs and were herded into a cellar now known as the Whigs' Vault. There were 122 men and 45 women. The prisoners were kept in squalid and horrendous conditions from the end of May until late July. During this time, 7 died and 2 fell to their deaths trying to escape. 37 were released after swearing an oath of allegiance. The rest were shipped to slave plantations in the West Indies, with many dying on the voyage across the sea. Wheatman Pearson, the first Viscount of Cowdray, bought the castle in 1925 and has since then been open to the public. In 1970, Dunnottar Castle and the headland on which it stands was designated as a scheduled monument. The younger son and third Viscount of Cowdray currently owns and runs Dunnottar Castle. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to visiting a castle near you. Bye!